A Saturday with no college football. One of the saddest Saturdays of the year, this first weekend with no college football. Obviously, we still have the national title game coming up. But, man, it's going to be a long 8 months, ain't it? Yeah, it is. Don't worry. Uncle Lou will be here for you year-round. That's right. I upload pointless college football videos that are barely watchable almost every single day of the year, year-round. So don't run off just because the season is coming to an end. Some of the most popular videos in the history of this channel have been uploaded in the off-seasons. I have a lot more time in the off-season to get creative and really... I have time to... Well, what it is I put more time into each video. So maybe there's a few less videos uploaded in the off-season because you don't have the constant storylines to upload on. You don't have games to talk about, wins and losses. So it allows me to put a little bit more time. The videos tend to be a little more creative, if you know what I mean, some of the most popular ones. Anyway, there are 3 things on Uncle Lou's mind today. It's Saturday. Lou Jr., shout out to Lou Jr., by the way. His birthday was a couple of days ago, but he's having his birthday party today. He's having some friends over. 3 or 4 of his buddies from school and soccer or whatever, for a spend the night party. So hashtag pray for Uncle Lou on that. I have to put up with that, but I'm gonna take him to do something this afternoon and probably take him to Wild Wings to eat some dinner tonight. But anyway, a good place for Uncle Lou to hide when there's a bunch of knuckleheaded kids running around my house is out here in my she shed, right? Great place to hide out here in the she shed. So I've got time to make some videos for you today. 3 things on Uncle Lou's mind. Number 1, the national title game. Number 2, Jim Harbaugh gets an extension from Michigan. It's not what it appears to be on the surface. I've got some thoughts on that. And, number 3, our good buddy, Jarrett Garandoo has transferred. That's right, he entered the portal a couple of weeks ago. He's found a landing spot. Got some thoughts on that too. I'm going to talk about the national title game in this video right here. And let's do this. Give me 500 likes on this video. 500! You guys can do it. Just hit thumbs up, 500 likes. This video hits 500 likes, I'll upload another one on Garandoo or whatever the other thing. Oh, Jim Harbaugh. Yeah, I've got all kinds of things running through my head today. So we'll see how many videos we can get out today. But national title game, Alabama versus Ohio State. Now, I don't think I've uploaded a video about this game, but I have talked about it a ton on the live shows. So if you've been watching the live shows, you have a pretty good idea of how I feel about this game, what I think about it, and why I think those things. But I'll try my best to summarize that in a video for you. Right now, I think Alabama wins the game. When I watch really any college football game, but particularly a big game, and it doesn't get any bigger than the national title, there's a couple of things I hope for. I hope for a good game, a close game, no injuries, an exciting game, maybe one that comes down to the end, or at least is up in the air in the 4th quarter. It just makes it more exciting to watch when the game you're watching isn't involving the team that you're a fan of, right? I'm hoping for a close game. I just don't think Ohio State can win this one. Ohio State played out of their minds last week against Clemson. Without question, that was the best game they have played all year. Not even close. And coaches talk all the time. You hear them say, well, you know, we want to get better as the year goes along so that when we get to the end of the season and the games matter the most, we're playing at our best. Well, that is the case for Ohio State. I watched every Ohio State game this season. I wasn't sure they could beat Clemson because of the way, watching them play during this season. Were they terrible? No, clearly they weren't. They're a great team. I've had them in my top 4 ever since they started playing. But they had problems in the secondary. They had problems getting to the quarterback. Up until the Big Ten title game, they had problems running the ball with their running backs. And, let's be honest, Justin Fields had played pretty bad against the 2 best teams Ohio State had played, Indiana, and then the Big Ten title game against Northwestern. None of that happened in the first round of the playoffs. Clemson's secondary locked the Clemson receivers down, or Ohio State secondary, Ohio State's pass rush, Trevor had no time to throw the ball. I mean, in the second half of that game, I found myself feeling sorry for Trevor Lawrence. I seriously did. I thought the guy, I wondered if they weren't going to take Trevor Lawrence out of that game at some point in the fourth quarter, because the game was basically over halfway through the fourth quarter, really before that. And Trevor Lawrence was just getting bent in half every single time he dropped back to throw the ball. And I'm sitting there watching that game going, where was this pass rush at all year for Ohio State? Where was this secondary at? Did y'all watch any Ohio State games? I mean, every single game they played, there was multiple wide receivers running wide open down the field. All of a sudden, they put it all together and figured it out in that Clemson game defensively and just played out of their minds on defense. It was unbelievable, especially compared to the way they had looked in the games they had played prior to that. Then over on the offensive side of the ball, they picked up right where they left off in the Big Ten title game running the ball with Trey Sermon. This guy, Trey Sermon, over the last 2 games, Trey Sermon has been the best running back in America. Period. Najee Harris is unbelievable. Travis Etienne is unbelievable. There's other running backs that weren't involved in the playoffs that were unbelievable. Nobody over the last 2 games has been as good as Trey Sermon. Period. What a genius is Trey Sermon. Gets the hell out of Norman, Oklahoma, lands at Ohio State, now here he is playing for a national title. It's a fairy tale sort of story for Trey Sermon, riddled with injuries at Oklahoma, lost on the depth chart, sort of too. Shows up in Ohio State, and the last 2 games is just absolutely dominated on the ground. And of course, Justin Fields had, without question, his best game of the year against the best team they've played, Clemson. I mean, he didn't look good against Northwestern in the Big Ten title game. He didn't look good against Indiana. Had a couple other games where he looked a little shaky with some turnovers. And he had some games that he played great too, but nothing like what we saw in that game. I mean, 6 incompletions and 6 touchdowns he had. Unbelievable. The second half of that game, he's playing through the rib injury. I don't know what they did to him at halftime, give him a shot or something. He was clearly in a lot of pain. Now, he couldn't run in the second half, and I'll get to that in a second. But if Ohio State comes out and plays like they did against Clemson, not only do they have a chance against Alabama, they'll likely win. If Justin Fields has 6 touchdowns and 6 incompletions, Ohio State will win. No doubt about it. Can they do it? Of course they can. We just saw them do it, so we know they can. Will they? I don't know. Teams rarely play their best game twice in a season. What team are you a fan of? Look back at this season. Which game did your team play the absolute best? Did they play that good twice? Probably not. Most teams don't. I don't know if Ohio State can put it seemed like Ohio State's season was all building towards that Clemson game, and it came together at the right time. I don't know that they can perform at that level in all those areas that I just talked about, the secondary, the pass rush, the ground game, and Justin Fields. I don't know if all 4 of those areas can play at the level that they played against Clemson, and that's what they'll have to do to win this game. Can they? Yes. Will they? Hard to bet on it. Alabama's about an 8.5-point favorite, depending on where you look or when you look. It's bounced around from 7 to 7.5 to 8 to 8.5 in that range over the last week or so. Justin Fields' ribs. You need Justin Fields to be able to run the ball more. Well, and almost even more importantly than that, you need the threat of him running the ball. And I can promise you this: Alabama is going to do whatever they have to do to find out in the first quarter of this game if Justin Fields is healthy or not. What do I mean by that? They're going to send the house after this guy. They're going to do it. They are going to blitz Justin Fields early and often in this game, and they're going to find out early in this game, can Justin Fields take off and run, or are the ribs going to limit him to basically being a pocket passer in this game? The second half of that game against Clemson, there was a couple of times where the pass rush got to Justin Fields, and we've seen it 100 times. He'll step up in the pocket or spin and roll out or whatever and take off running. We've seen it a million times. A couple of times in the second half of that game when Clemson did manage to get to Justin Fields, he didn't do that. He just sort of crumbled and fell down and let a Clemson player fall on him a couple of times. You could tell he could not run in the second half of that game. Clearly, we hope he's 100% in this game. When you watch a big-time game, you want both teams at 100%. You want to see the best that each team has to offer. Go out and play the game and make the best team win type of thing. I don't know about his ribs. I just don't. He appeared to be in a ton of pain in that game. I thought he had a broken rib at the time. Now they're not going to really say a whole lot about it this week. They're going to say he's good to go. That's all they're going to say. He's cleared to play and he's good to go. That means nothing. It means nothing. Now, will he play? Yes, I do think he'll play. But as far as them coming out and saying, oh, well, Justin Fields is about 75%, so we're not going to have him do any running. No, of course they're not going to come out and say that. Why would you give Alabama that information? But Alabama's going to do everything they can do to find out in the first quarter of this game, where's Justin Fields at, health-wise, with his ribs? Can he run? Will he run? They're going to do everything they can to find that out. He needs to be able to run for Ohio State to win this game. Alabama, under Nick Saban, has had some great defenses. Even some of the best defenses that Alabama has had, though, under Saban, have had trouble with mobile quarterbacks that can run around. It obviously, it gives the defense a whole separate host of issues that they have to deal with and worry about and consider pre-snap and during the play. And, a running quarterback dropping back to pass isn't necessarily going to end up being a pass, right? Tons of running quarterbacks now. Justin Fields needs to be at 100% to win this game. The defense has got to find a way to deal with Alabama's wide receivers. The whole, stop the run first, then play the pass. I don't know. I know Najee Harris is great. If you don't figure out a way to slow down Devontae Smith and that wide receiver group, and God forbid Jalen Waddle plays, I'll talk about that in a second. I don't know. If you're Ohio State, what do you try to take away first? Najee Harris' ability to run the ball, or Mac Jones' ability to hit those wide receivers? What's more important to you if you're Ohio State? I think you got to try to take the pass away. Clearly, you got to limit the big plays too. And listen, Bama's going to hit some plays on you. They are. They're going to hit plays on anybody they play. Ohio State, you hit some too. Bama's going to hit some plays. So Ohio State's defense, boy, that secondary is really going to have to play. What you need really to have a chance against that Alabama offense is a couple of DBs who can play tight press man coverage without getting burnt deep. But then that means you're also not giving up the easy, quick throws. And you need a pass rush that can get to the quarterback quick, fast, and in a hurry. You let Mac Jones sit back there and look around. I don't care how good Shaun Wade is, DB for Ohio State, or how good anybody else is on Ohio State. You let Mac Jones sit in that pocket for 5, 6, 7 seconds and look around, one of those wide receivers is getting open. Period. You cannot cover wide receivers for 6, 7, 8 seconds. You can't. You better figure out a way to get to Mac Jones. I hope this is a good game. People keep, who are you rooting for? Who are you pulling for? I don't really root or pull for any team in any game not involving Georgia. Now, there's a couple of conflicting interests for me in this game. I am an SEC homer. I don't try to hide it. I don't deny it. I'm proud of it. I think the SEC is the greatest football conference in America. Am I biased? Yeah, I'm biased. But in a lot of years, it ends up being true that the SEC is the best conference. I'm not here to make that debate a part of this video. I'm just saying, generally speaking, I'm an SEC homer, and I like to see the SEC do well in non-con games, especially the big non-con games. You always have a few at the beginning of the season, bowl games, playoffs, whatever. I like to see the SEC do well. So that part of me says, well, let Alabama win one for the whole SEC deal. The other part of me, I am a Justin Fields fan. I don't apologize for that either. And I feel like I have the credibility to say that. I'm a fan of great college football players and have been a fan of great college football players openly for years on this channel. I talked about Jonathan Taylor, the running back at Wisconsin the last few years, maybe more than any other player outside of Georgia players in the history of this channel. I just absolutely loved watching Jonathan Taylor play football. It was fun to watch to me. He has no connections to Georgia. He's not from Georgia. Never was enrolled at Georgia. Never went to Georgia. Never got misused at Georgia. I just liked watching Jonathan Taylor play football. Jerry Jeudy at Alabama. I've said this a million times. I can watch Jerry Jeudy catch an 8-yard slant route for hours. It never gets old to me. I don't know what it is, the combination of him and Tua and those slant routes that they ran. I don't know how many times Jerry Jeudy caught a 6-yard slant route and scored a 60-yard touchdown on it. It seemed like every play. It was a thing of beauty. Bryce Love, Saquon Barkley. I just love watching great college football players, whether they play for Georgia or not. I love Justin Fields. He's fun to watch. And the fact that he's from Georgia, he was at Georgia for a while. I became a fan of Justin Fields. I'm not going to apologize. I can't turn that off just because he transferred to Ohio State. I don't blame him. I've been down this road. Everyone that follows me for any amount of time knows. Who was in the right in that situation? Justin Fields. Who was in the wrong? Georgia. We clearly made the wrong decision. That's on Kirby. Again, that's a subject of 15, 20 other videos I've already done and will do in the future probably. I'm not going to then suddenly start pretending I don't like Justin Fields or that he's not any good just because he transferred from Georgia. Justin Fields is a generational talent, a once-in-a-lifetime type player for most schools, and I'm not going to stop feeling that way or saying that just because he's not here. So I would love to see Justin Fields go out and have a great game and Ohio State win the game. So I have sort of interest on both sides of the spectrum. So I don't really pull or root for either team. Again, I want a good game. When it comes to picking the winner of the game, that's just who I think will actually win. And I just think Alabama will win this game. To me, there's just too many unknowns about Ohio State. And here's the thing. Let's assume Ohio State plays its best game and Alabama plays its best game. I think that still favors Alabama. I think it's less likely that Ohio State plays their best game. Why? The Justin Fields injury, or how hurt is he? Will he run? Will he not run? All that. And what's the real Ohio State defense? Is it the one that dominated Clemson last week? Or is it the one we saw every other game this season that had trouble covering wide receivers and trouble getting to the QB and sacking him? I just feel like the safe bet is that Alabama will win. Again, of course Ohio State can win this game. There's been a lot of talk this week about 2018. During that season, that was the Tua, Jerry Jeudy season. I mean, they were loaded like they always are. Clemson had Trevor Lawrence as a true freshman. He had taken over week 5, and they were playing really well. But all you heard that season was, oh my God, look at this. Alabama's offense is unstoppable. This might be the greatest college football team of all time. No one's going to beat them. They're going to beat Clemson by 3 scores in the national title game. This won't even be close. What happened? Clemson came out and beat them 44-16. So yeah, Ohio State can win this game. Anything can happen. But you got to pick a side here. I'm not rooting against Ohio State. I'm not rooting for Bama. I'm not rooting for Ohio State. And I'm not rooting against Bama. I think Alabama is the team that will end up winning this game. Spread 7.5 or 8. I guess I'll take Alabama and lay the 8. There's a couple of bets I like more in this game. The over-under on this game is 75. I think it's going to go under. And you can actually bet just the first quarter of the game. And if you want to bet just the first quarter of the game, this might be my favorite bet. Alabama is a 1/2 point favorite. 1/2 point. Alabama's a 1/2 point favorite in the first quarter. Alabama starts quick. Alabama starts fast. Alabama first half and Alabama second half, almost 2 different teams. Intentionally. Not that they don't play 2 halves or anything like Georgia's disease. It's an intentional thing. Alabama comes out and lights it up as much as they can in the first half of a lot of games they play. You see a lot of games where Alabama has 35 or 40 points at halftime and finishes the game with 45, 47, 48, 49, or 50 points. Why is that? Do they quit playing? No. They tend to score quick in the first half of games. And if they have a lead going into that second half, steady dose of Najee Harris in the second half and limit the other team's possessions. Instead of scoring in a minute or a minute and a half like Alabama tends to do in the first half, their scoring drives become 3, 4, and 5-minute scoring drives in the second halves of games. Stands to reason that Alabama would take a similar approach in this game. I think first quarter, Alabama minus 1/2 point is a really good bet. Now the over-under, I like the under 75 for those reasons I just talked about. I could see this game being somewhere in the neighborhood of 28-14 at halftime, 27-21, 27-20, 24-14, somewhere in there, with Alabama winning. And then the final score, like let's say Alabama has 28 at halftime, maybe they have 42 by the time the game is over. They score 4 touchdowns in the first half, 2 in the second half, something like that. You see that a lot with Alabama. That would put Alabama, maybe they win 42-24, end up winning a game, 42-24. That'd be 52. That'd be 66 points scored. That's under the 75. Hell, even 42-30 would be under. So I like the under 75 because of the way Alabama tends to play the first half versus a slower offense in the second half. So I like the under 75. Also with Justin Fields in the ribs, if he can't run around, if he doesn't play like he played against Clemson, I don't think Ohio State will score enough points to push the over 75. This will be a good game. Listen, a lot of trash talk on this channel and just in college football in general. Let's be real. Every single person watching this video, every single one of you who's not an Alabama fan and who's not an Ohio State fan, every single one of us would trade places with you right now. Every single one of us would love to be in a position to lose the national title game or win it or whatever. So congratulations to Alabama and Ohio State on 2 amazing seasons. Clearly the 2 best teams in college football this year. We can debate till the cows come home about Notre Dame versus Texas A&M versus Florida versus Georgia versus Oklahoma, whatever these teams that you want to put in a hat and dump them out that are ranked basically 4 through 10. There is no debate. Alabama and Ohio State, this is not an accident that these 2 teams are meeting in the national title game. In my opinion, these are clearly the 2 best teams in college football. Salute to both those teams and their fans. Let's hope for a great game. I'll be streaming the game. I don't know that I've ever streamed the national title game before, but I'll be streaming the national title game this year, Monday night at 8 o'clock, with Pigskin Pete, the Clemson fan. So we're going to do a dual stream. I'll start the stream. I think the game comes on TV at 8. We'll start the stream around 7:45 or so. There's no need to start it much earlier than that. The game comes on TV at 8. That means kickoff's probably not till 8:30. So we'll start the stream between 7:45 and 8. Pigskin Pete will be joining me. Chances are, if you're watching a video like this, you're planning on watching the national title game. Watch along with me and Pete. We watch, we dissect the game, we talk about it, we react to it. Come enjoy the game with us Monday night, the national title game. And let's hope for a good one. Again, thumbs up this video. I've got a lot on my mind today and time to come out here and hide from my kid's birthday party and make videos for you. So 500 thumbs up, I'll put another video out. 500 thumbs up on that second video, I'll put a third video out. You know the routine. Have a good morning.